Thanks, Andrea, and thanks for the invitation. Uh, First of all, I'm going to talk about the background of the public transport in Mexico City. We have collective taxis in Mexico City since the decade of 60s. They started to operate in the downtown of the city because they were cheaper than the normal taxis, but they were more efficient than the traditional buses of the city that have a bad service. In the decade of 90s, the collective taxis were the most important mode of transport in the city. And we have more than 30,000 jeepneys in the city operating. Since 2001, we have a reform, a very slow process of reform. In 2005, we started the first line of Metrobus, that is the BRT system. And then in 2009, we started the first corridor of transport. The difference is that the corridor of transport is not part of the Metrobus system, and they don't have some of the advantages of the Metrobus system. For example, they don't have exclusive lanes, or then they don't have a pay per kilometer. So it's a modernization of the transport, but not in a BRT system. This is the situation when we arrived to government in 2019. Yeah, we had more than 600 Metrobuses and more than 2,000 new buses operating in the city. But at the same time, we have more than 16,000 vehicles operating in the traditional system of collective taxis with jeepneys, vans, and buses. Our focus was in the minibuses or jeepneys because they have more than 25 years operating in the city. So we have big problems with the safety and the security of the trips in these units. The first step we took was to create the idea of a mobility system in the city because we have different modes of transport, but they were divided in different organisms and in different regulations. So the first steps were to create a unified identity of the system with the idea of movilidad integrada, una ciudad, un sistema, one city, one system. And the second step was to create a new mobility contactless card. So, and this mobility card take in account the corridors of transport that 6 years ago sounds impossible in Mexico City that a corridor of transport could be accept the mobility card because before that we just have a Metro card and a Metrobus card, but each mode of transport has a different card. So a corridor of transport is not part of this public organisms, so it sounds very difficult in that moment. Talking about the process of reform, we have 3 different mechanisms to convert the traditional operators in part of the system. First is Metrobus. Government hand a bonus to the traditional operators of jeepneys. They have to use this bonus to buy new fleet and to make a new company. And the new company is responsible of operating the new service. The second way is the corridor of transports. That is very similar. The scheme is very similar, but they are not part of Metrobus. And we create a new scheme with trolleybuses that we have a very old public company that operates trolleybuses in the city. But now we started to include private companies in this service. The case of Metrobus and the BRT is more popular, so I'm going to try to talk more about the transport corridors and zonal services because there is not a lot of information about that in general. The corridors of transport that city made from 2009 until 2019 were centered in the most important avenues of the city, and they were for example, in the downtown. You can see in the map in gray, but they forgot the periphery of the city and other zones of the city where the jeepneys operates. So we center our work in these peripheral zones of the city, and you can see these projects in purple. So we create the idea of zonal service. We have the concept of corridor of transport in the principal avenues, but we don't have an alternative to the periphery zones where the transport operates in a different way because we have less affordable services and we have more competition for the passengers between different operators. So with the zonal service, we try to include different organizations in one new company to reduce the competition. And also we try to make more affordable the projects because in these peripheral zones, we have some very profitable routes, but also we have other routes that are less profitable with less demand. So if we try to include the different routes in the same company, the most profitable routes can subsidize internally the less profitable routes. Also, we have to change the bonus that government used to give to the traditional operators. It was of 100,000 pesos for a lot of years, and we changed it for a bonus of 450,000 pesos because the price of the buses buses are more expensive today than 20 years ago. And today, 12 companies, corridors of transport or zonal services, use the new mobility card, the 8 projects that we have been implementing, and other 4 companies that already exist, they use the mobility card today. Some of the advantages of these new services is that they come with some new technological advances like GPS, cameras, and the mobility car. Also, the drivers have a formal contract and have social security that in the past they didn't have. And we have regulated stops. We have frequencies and schedules that it didn't happen in the past. This is the other scheme that we implemented with trolleybuses. It's very interesting this case because city has big infrastructure to operate trolleybuses, very old infrastructure, but we can modernize part of this infrastructure with less cost to the city than, for example, use of, for example, buy electric buses. Trolleybuses are cheaper than electric buses, and we can use part of the infrastructure that the city already have. So in this way, it's more affordable, these projects. And in the past, in the 70s, in the 80s, it was very common that in an avenue, you can see the jeepneys, the vans operating and competing with the trolleybus operated by a public company. So we try to do the things in a different way. And in a similar way to Metrobus, the traditional operators of jeepneys can create a company and start to operate trolleybuses. So, for example, we did a project in Iztapalapa that is one of the poorest poorer neighborhoods of the city, where we replaced 250 old jeepneys with new 35 trolleybuses operated by the public company and by the new company created by the traditional operator. In general, as you can see, our projects are always with the traditional operators. We don't, or Mexico City have not implemented a bidding process or try to invite other external companies. The projects are with the traditional operators. We try to change the way they operate the service, but with them. And when we arrived to government in 2019, there were a lot of problems with these projects because a lot of transport operators say that government just work with some specific leaders. And there were some corruption allegations about that the projects were always with the same leader, with the same person, and the rest of the sector was excluded of the process. So something very important for us has been to work with all the operators, with all the leaders. We have more than 10 different big organizations. We have two kinds of organizations, the roots organizations, and then the roots organizations are grouped in bigger organizations with important leaders. So we have been working with all the different leaderships that we have in the jeepneys organizations. You can see in the table that we work with 95% of the sector. And in the case that organization is not participating in the project, is because this organization doesn't want to participate. We invite them, we made the technical study, we made the roundtable with them, but they don't want to participate because they prefer to operate in the traditional mode. So this is very important because legitimate the process with the sector, because everybody and every leader can participate in the process of modernization. That is very different than what happened in the past. So even one leader that is not very relevant in the city was very surprised that we invited them to make a project because he said that in the past they cannot take a meeting with a director of the ministry for any topic, not a project, for any topic. He didn't have any access to a director in the ministry. Other important thing to engage traditional operators with these projects is the confidence in technical studies. In the past, was common that the companies that sells the bosses or the leaders of the business organizations made the studies to sell buses or to look for a specific interest. So we decide to contract the technical studies or to look for help of different organizations to have the best technical study to implement a project. So for example, we have we have worked we have been working with C40 Cities, KfW, and the British Embassy to the financial support of these studies. And it's very common that we have to make a review of the studies and go to the street with the traditional operators, with the driver, to validate the study. And in some cases, we have to correct the study with the information that they have, because they are every day in the street, and maybe some information of the study was not clear or there was a mistake, and we solve them with the transport operators. The third thing was the financial feasibility of the projects. When we arrived to government, there were some companies that were in bankrupt because these corridors of transport or zonal services depends on the fare collection. They have a subsidy to buy the new buses, but then in the operation they don't have any subsidy. So some companies were in bankrupt. So when we invite any transport organization to a project, they don't want to participate because they said that they are going to have a lot of problems, and they have a business today, and they are going to lose them with the project. So we make a financial evaluation of the projects, and also we manage financial training for the traditional operators, because in some cases they have been operating a jeepney for 40 or 50 years, but they don't know how to create a company and how to operate a new company. Also, the mobility car has been useful in this part because they can access to better financial conditions to buy the new buses, because the financial entities know that they can receive the payment from what they collect in the mobility card. And the last point is government transparency. This is very important because we work all the time with a lot of different stakeholders and a lot of different groups. So we have tried to be very transparent in the process. Everything is published and is open. All the meetings have like a paper of agreements, and then we publish these agreements, and we never get involved in internal conflicts of the jeepney organization. If they have a problem, a conflict between different leaders, we don't have a favorite leader or something similar in these conflicts. We stay apart to avoid any conflict of interest or any difficult situation. A good example of that of those measures that we have made is that, for example, last year in a project, one of the leaders have not the majority of the operators, so he lost the internal process to be the president of the new company, and he tried to say that in Mexico City there was a cartel of transport between the authorities and the and some leaders. But with those elements, with the transparency of the documents, that everything is published, that we are working with all the sector at the same time, it was easy to solve the situation and to explain the situation because we have all the evidence and the sector has all the evidence that we are not a cartel and we are not just working with a specific leader. And to conclude about the collective transport, I want to talk about the next steps. We have advanced a lot, but we today have more than 12,000 vehicles in the traditional scheme. So we have to continue creating new companies, new zonal services, new corridors of transport to replace the fleet and to improve the service. And we have to think in new metropolitan services because we work just in Mexico City, but we have a very big metropolitan area. And until the last year was very difficult to coordinate any process because there are different political parties in government in Mexico City and in the state of Mexico, that is the other state. So now we have the same party in the two governments. So it's a new opportunity to think in metropolitan transport. That is something that today is very difficult because someone that lives in the metropolitan area has to make a lot of part of trip to arrive to their destiny. And the other pathway with this mode of transport is improve the new services that we are integrating in the system. Yeah, we now have a new fleet and stops, and they are regulated in a better way, but there are some things that we have to improve. For example, information to users. In the case of Metrobus, we have stations with a lot of information, and everybody now knows how to use the network. But in zonal services and corridors of transport, we don't have a lot of information. We don't have a map, for example. So we have to improve the information to the user. And we have to think in different schemes of fare integration because they continue with the traditional fare collection. We are not changing anything in this aspect. Very fast, I want to talk a little about other kinds of popular transport in Mexico City. The first is cycle taxis. They operate in the downtown and in the periphery zones of the city. We hand more than 250 bonus to replace the old cycle taxis in the city for new cycle taxis, and we hand the first permits and plates to this service because since 2014 the local law says that we have to give these permits, but it it has not happened until the last year. And in the periphery, that it's more difficult to do anything. The first step was to count the cycle taxis. We count more than 900 cycle taxis in the periphery. And the other mode of transport is mototaxi. That is like the elephant in the room in Mexico City, because they don't have a legal framework. They don't have any recognition in the law. So we cannot regulate them because we don't have the legal framework to do that. So the first step was to count them. We have a diagnosis strategy in the city. We count more than 10,000 vehicles in the periphery of the city. And I want to conclude saying that the situation of mototaxis today is very similar to the situation of the collective taxis 50 years ago, because they don't have a legal framework, the government don't know how to regulate them. So if we look in the past and we analyze the hits and misses of the regulation of collective taxis in the 20th century, maybe we can find some of the solutions to these new services. Thank you very much.